Folks, welcome back to the channel. Well, I got into Horseshoe yesterday afternoon and got the site all set up. Right here's my site. Went into Tupper, picked up a few supplies, came back, made dinner, and then I had a nice fire going when a thunderstorm rolled in. And it was a pretty good one. It dumped a lot of rain. Right there's the puddle. And it rained pretty much almost all night long. But the thunderstorm was about 9:30 to about 11 o'clock. Lightning, heavy thunder. But today I'm hoping to go out onto Horseshoe, do an easy paddle today, and then tomorrow I want to head down to Round Lake if the weather holds. Right now it's overcast, but it's warm. It's 78, 80 degrees probably right now because it is kind of that stuffy, humid Adirondack weather. So stick around. Well, folks, this is Horseshoe Lake, and it comes right around, goes around that point, and then onto the other side, and then over behind me. Shouldn't take too much time. Once I find the right spot, I'll give you a little history on the lake. Well, folks, this is Horseshoe. Over my shoulder back here is where the old Horseshoe Village used to be. The history of this lake is pretty good. There was an investor from New York City named Abbott Augustus Lowe who bought over 46,000 acres around Horseshoe Lake and the Bog River. And he immediately went to work putting things together. He built two dams on the Bog River. One is the Lowe's Lower Dam, now known, and Lowe's Upper Dam, to produce electricity. He started a forestry service, forestry company, logging company up here, and he also started producing maple syrup. A lot of the inventions at the time were Lowe's inventions of making maple syrup. At one point during his run, he was the largest producer in the world of maple syrup right here at Horseshoe. A lot of the bottles that the maple syrup were put in would say, Adirondack and Horseshoe Forest products. So, anyways, the railroad tracks from Tupper Lake to Utica ran right through here, so he ended up putting in a train depot. He convinced the U.S. Postal Service to put a post office in, and thus creating the village of Horseshoe. State Route 421 that comes off of Route 30 still comes in to Horseshoe, but dead ends right over back where the old Horseshoe Village used to be. What drew it to an end was that there was a forest fire in the early 1900s, about 1906 I think it was, that destroyed Horseshoe Wild Forest up here, just destroyed it. And that destroyed his forestry business, that destroyed the maple syrup business, and he ended up abandoning the village, and the village ended up slowly dying out. There was rumors that a lot of the bottles that were in crates, some filled with maple syrup, some empty, were dumped right here in Horseshoe Lake. And I remember reading a blog, I think a couple years ago, of a guy that said that he was from Syracuse, he was a diver, and he came up here and dove this lake to see if there was bottles, and he said he found hundreds of crates of bottles on the bottom of this lake. Now this lake isn't very deep. I think the deepest part is maybe about 20 feet, but he said that there was crates after crates after crates of bottles down there. And boy, I'd like to go down and get a few of those bottles. You know, I think that would be neat to have a bottle like that. But so I tend to believe the rumor is true that they just dumped the crates of bottles into this lake when everything ended, and they had no other use for them. But if you paddle from the Lowe's lower dam up to the upper dam, the remains of Gus's mansion is still there. There's the fireplace is still there, and it's kind of a neat story about one of the old villages here in the Adirondacks that no longer exist. So I'm gonna finish out my paddle here. I'm almost all the way around Horseshoe Lake. Again, it's not that big of a lake. So far it hasn't started raining on me, but it is getting darker out. But it's still warm, it's still humid out. So that's the story of the village of Horseshoe. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel to follow the adventure. Thanks for joining me.